Welcome to another tutorial on Fortigate Firewall. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can configure explicit web proxy on Fortigate Firewall when you have the SD-WAN already configured. And on my screen is the simple network topology, whereas in client 10.10.10.1 connects to Fortigate Firewall on port 3, 10.10.10.108, where I have the explicit web proxy running on a specific port 4433. And on the external side, I have 192.168.0.108 on port 1 connecting to ISP1, and on port 2 I have 14.140.40.108 connecting to ISP2. And I have the SD-WAN zone configured, port 1, port 2 being the member of the SD-WAN zone that I have. And I have a custom SLA created which monitors the server 8.8.8.8 and registers the packet loss, latency, and jitter. And SD-WAN configuration will take the decision based on the packet loss as per my configuration. This is the system which is having the IP address 10.10.10.1. And going to the Fortigate firewall, as you can see, WAN 1 is configured with an IP of 192.168.0.108. WAN 2 is configured with an IP of 14.140.40.108. LAN 10.10.10.108/24, which connects our client machine, and where we have the explicit web proxy server running. So let me quickly show you the SD-WAN configuration. If you would like to have the complete configuration tutorial, then I'll pin the video on your link so that you can configure the same. SD-WAN tab, you can see that I have SD-WAN zone where I have WAN 1 and WAN 2, port 1, port 2 configured. I have a performance SLA created custom made where I try to monitor 8.8.8.8 for packet loss, latency, jitter. And SD-WAN rule is configured to take decisions based on the SLA that I have. In my case, I'm using best effort, best quality, member with the best measured performance is selected, which in my case is going to be WAN 1 in most of the cases. Pretty simple configuration here. You can refer the video on your screen for reference. Now let's try to configure the explicit proxy, which can use the SD-WAN configuration for the outgoing traffic. Click on System, click on Feature Visibility. If you check out the explicit proxy, well, this is disabled because you will have to run some commands and enable the GUI proxy inspection. Let us try to do that first. Go to System Settings and set GUI proxy. Enable. Now, if you go back, you'll see that option available for you. You can see here, now I can enable this and apply. After this, I will go to network, I'll go to explicit proxy, and I will enable explicit proxy, explicit web proxy here. As you can see, I already have the LAN interface selected, where I'll have all the requests listening on port 4433 for HTTP, and for HTTPS, I'm going to use the same port 4433. And I have used the same option here, use HTTP port. Do not need this configuration, FTP over HTTP. Pack file I do not have, so I'll keep it unchecked. Proxy FQDN, well, I can put it as fg.mydomain. Maximum HTTP request length, I'm keeping it to default. Same goes for maximum HTTP message length. Unknown HTTP version, I'm not going to reject it. I'm going to use best effort option here. Default firewall policy is configured to deny the traffic on explicit proxy port. Outgoing IP is going to be same as interface IP. If you would like to change this, you can click on specify and select the IPs from the list, or you can create one. So I'm going to use same as interface IP. And I do not have any forwarding server here, so I'll keep it empty. Same goes for URL match list. Click OK, apply. Now we have the configuration where LAN port 3 listens on port 4433 for the proxy traffic. Now next comes the policy configuration. Inside the firewall policy, you have a normal allow policy. Without this policy, our SD-WAN will not be able to route the traffic or process the traffic. So this particular policy is required. For more information, you can check out the last tutorial that I have made on SD-WAN. So click on proxy policy inside the policy and object, and this is the explicit proxy option here. Name it as allow. Proxy type, I'm going to select explicit web, and it is enabled on port 3, which is automatically updating here. Outgoing interface is going to be SD-WAN zone. Make sure you select the SD-WAN zone where you have the port 1, port 2 defined. Source, I can use 10.10.10.1/32, which is the client machine. Destination, I can select as all, service as web proxy, predefined, which will allow the traffic for TCP port from 0 to 65535. Action is accept. Coming down to the next section. Passive health check disable. Protocol option default. Outgoing IP. Use the outgoing IP selected on network explicit proxy page. So this is going to fetch the configuration from the proxy, web proxy configuration that we have done in the last step. So I'm going to click it as proxy default. If you would like to change, then you can go for the other option. In our explicit web proxy configuration, we have selected interface IP as the outgoing IP, source IP. Coming down to the next section, display disclaimer disabled. SSL inspection, well, I'm not doing any sort of SSL inspection here because I do not have the certificate configured. Maybe in the next video, I'll show you how to do that. Log allow traffic, enable security event, click OK. So now we have the policy configured. And one more thing is inside the network, if you go to static route, you will see a default route pointing to SD-WAN, which is for the routing of traffic. Now let's try to go to the client machine and do some settings. As you can see, instead of configuring the proxy on the system, I'm going to configure it on the browser. You can see here manual proxy configuration on the browser 10.10.10.108, which is the Fortigate firewall port 3 LAN port. And port number is 4433 for HTTP. And I've selected also use this proxy for HTTPS. That's it. You can click on OK. Let's try to initiate the Wireshark capture. Let's try to access some of the website to understand our traffic flow. Now let's try to check out our capture. So this is the request. Let us try to follow the TCP stream to understand. So in the beginning, you can see here client machine, since it is configured for explicit web proxy, it is sending the TCP three-way handshake request to 10.10.108, which is the firewall port, LAN port, on 4433. After the TCP three-way handshake, it is sending the connect request. Again, the destination is 10.10.10.108, not the actual destination. Connect is for the website that we were trying to access. You can see here the host. And in response to this, the web proxy server, which is our FortiGate firewall, is going to send 200 connection established. After this, the client will then initiate the SSL handshake, client hello, followed by server hello, and then the rest of the communication. And if you see the port number here is for the SSL handshake 4433. So this is the first leg of communication. On FortiGate firewall, you will see two leg for this communication. One from the client machine to the FortiGate firewall, and next from the FortiGate firewall to the actual destination, which in our case is going to be trivago.in. Okay. Now let's try to check some information on the firewall as well. So on the firewall, you can see proxy policy. You can see the bytes increasing. Let us try to access few of the options available here so that we can get some traffic. If you go here, if you try to refresh, you can see here the bytes are increasing, which means that the configuration that we have in place is working fine. Let us try to filter the traffic and see if we have any matching. Probably it is not able to match the destination with the domain. No problem. We'll try to check the same from the CLI to understand the session. Let us try to access the Fortigate CLI. These are the traffic from the system. As you can see, 10.10.10.1 on some random source port, 10.10.10.108. As you can see that the port number is 4433, which is the web proxy port. This is the first leg of communication, since the firewall divides the entire communication into two, from the client to the firewall and from the firewall to the actual server. You can see here multiple sessions. These are the actual session from the firewall to the actual server. And the response is for 192.168.0.108 because of the netting. So this traffic let us try to filter and see if we can find some of the session. If you see here, you should see the actual session from the interface IP to the actual server. Like this. This is the NTP. Yeah, this might be. Let me try to initiate some traffic. This is the actual traffic from the source 10.10.10.1. As you can see here. So for 50635, this is the actual traffic from the client 10.10.10.1 to firewall IP LAN port 3, where we have the proxy listening on 4433. And the same traffic you can see. I guess the session got cleared. Five 50635. So I tried accessing youtube.com. As you can see on my packet capture. TCP three-way handshake for 4433. And destination is 10.10.10.108. After connect for youtube.com, 200 OK, connection established, SSL handshake. Well, if you check the IP address for the YouTube, 142.250.182.142. And like I said, the communication is divided into two legs, one from the firewall, one from the client to firewall, the other from the firewall to the actual domain. Let me try to share my screen. So this is the firewall CLI. If you see, this is the actual outgoing traffic 192.168.0.108, which is the port 1, ISP1, sending the traffic to actual server, which is the youtube.com on actual port 443, and the reply coming back to 192.168.0.108. Since there is a port address translation along with the NAT, so we do not see the actual port from where the traffic was initiated. So that's all in this video. If you have any question, do leave them in the comment section. And at last, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. See you in the next one. Bye.